I would like to talk to you today about the kinds of books or materials that you might need if you're trying to be helpful either to an organization or to an individual. First of all, it's important to consider that the helping process itself can come in several forms. You can just give information from an expert point of view, or you can be a doctor who makes a diagnosis and gives a prescription, or you can be a process consultant where you realize for various reasons that only the client can solve the problem and that your job as a helper is to help the client to do that. Now, if we consider helping an organization first, the issue usually is that organizations have cultures. They have grown up and have a certain way of doing things. And it is my experience that for any kind of helping, for any kind of consulting with an organization, it is essential that you truly understand how organizational culture works at the level of the whole organization, the different units of the organization, and even the occupations within that organization. And for that purpose, the best reference would be my book, Organizational Culture and Leadership, which goes into great detail on how culture is created, how it operates, and how you have to take it into account in trying to help an organization with its cultural problems. Now, if you're a process consultant working with the organization, you need my book, Process Consultation, which describes very thoroughly how you help the client think about his own organization. And if the client and you realize that culture is involved, then you would also refer to the actual process that's described in the Organizational Culture book to describe how you diagnose and work with culture where the client is in charge rather than you as an expert telling him what to do. So organizational consulting is very heavily about culture, and you need those two books. On the other hand, if you're dealing with an individual in a helping role, there are different kinds of career issues and problems. So if you're trying to be an expert to the individual, you would then rely on my book, Career Anchors, which describes not only how an individual can diagnose his own competencies, values, and motivations that would help him figure out what kind of a career he needs, but you can then be an expert or a helper in the doctor role to help the individual figure out how he or she can use what they have learned about themselves in building or changing or enhancing their career. If, on the other hand, it looks like they just need more general counseling, then you would use my two books, which were more oriented toward the individual, called Helping and Humble Inquiry. And the two are connected in that any helping process requires you to figure out what the client really needs, and that requires you to first ask some questions before you make any suggestions. And humble inquiry is the fundamentally best way to ask those questions, especially in the very beginning of the relationship, because to get into a helping relationship requires a level of trust from the client, and you will not get that level of trust unless you inquire in an open, curious, helpful way, in which case what I described as humble inquiry is the key to the process. So just to summarize, for the individual, you need career anchors, helping, and humble inquiry. For organizational consulting, you need the organizational culture and leadership book, along with the book on process consultation, in which you will also find the necessary references to helping and humble inquiry.